I'll start with a little story about the infinite and immortal that you absolutely are. And when I was going to, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I had come out several years ago, but my family is very Southern Baptist, Independent Baptist, Fundamental Baptist. So it certainly caused a bit of a stir. And, I would drive my own vehicle to the get-togethers because I didn't know if I would just have to leave, because my family's always been one that just sort of like says whatever they're thinking. So I was getting it, and something had come up, and then it was like, being gay is being equal to a murderer. You're equal to a murderer. And I had endured a bit of it for a while, and I remember thinking, I really just want this to stop, And I had spoken up for myself plenty of times, and nothing seemed to stop it. But this time was different. So someone had just finished saying that to me. You're equal to a murderer. And I turned and I looked at them, and what I said was, as an infinite and immortal being, I have space for you to be where you are right now. And I remember it shocked me when it came out of my mouth. But also, the whole room stopped, and I'm not saying, it's like it stopped. It stopped. The people that were talking to me, their mouths were hung open, and it was like they were in the midst of that word that we're going to come back with. And I looked around the room, and everybody was just sort of not moving, but just stuck in a position of like, or saying something or about to, and I remember it shocked me so much that I put my hand over my mouth, and I turned around and looked at the wall because I was like, what the heck? And when I turned back around, it was like everything started again, but everybody was in the midst of a completely different conversation. And never again has it ever come up as a family topic at Thanksgiving or anything. And it speaks to the power that you are. And not just that you are, but that infinite and immortal space within myself was speaking to the infinite and immortal spaces that each one of them were and are. It isn't just the ones who treat us well that are infinite and immortal. It's everybody. We're all in this together. So let's love ourselves and let's love one another. And you have the space to love yourself where you are right now. And you have the space to love anyone where they are right now. And loving them doesn't mean that you endure what they do. But when you come from that space deep inside of yourself, and you resonate to that space deep inside of themselves, it changes the world that we're in. And we're going to be with ourselves for eternity. And not like for eternity is somewhere in the future. When does it start? When does it end? Eternity is simply no time. Never has been. Never will be. It's a construct within which we function, that we created. So let's take the time to dive deep into that infinite and immortal space that you absolutely are. And it's never far from you. It's not a place you have to achieve. You are already living an eternal life. Death is not the opposite of life. Death is an aspect of the life that we are continuously in. So I can run from myself all I want in this lifetime, and I'm still going to wake up with myself. And when we realize that, even in just a small way, because it's very hard for the mind, our conscious thinking, not our consciousness, but our conscious thinking, to fathom in the infinite and immortal. In fact, those words seem impossible. And yet, you exist. And you will exist. So how about we bring a little bit more pleasure into our lives? If we thought of the mistakes that we make and what we call mistakes, and we looked at them across eternity, how much stake would we put in that? Oh, I screwed up in something I said. And if you look across an entire lifetime, how big a deal is that? And yet we let it rob us of our peace. You are so much more than one lifetime that we recognize as a life on this planet. And you have that infinite space with which to love yourself and others. It is more you than the stories that you've heard about you. See, that's what memories are, just stories that you've heard about you. And it's fun to play with them. Especially when they have so much less meaning than we thought they did. And in a way, when we hear that, so much less meaning, I want to remember certain special things. A first kiss, a first love, every single love that you've had. Loved ones that aren't here anymore. If our stories don't have meaning, where's the meaning? It's in the living, the embracing, the awareness that that story, the energy, the interconnection that you had, the relationship that you have or had, is always. So we can enjoy those stories a bit more. And if the stories weren't pleasant, we know they don't define us. How could one thing in particular that happened to you in one lifetime be the definition of an infinite and immortal being? Would not that infinite and immortal being be the compilation of all of its experiences? And since that infinite and immortal being is one, then they're all our shared stories. Our shared stories of learning to have space for one another. Our shared stories of beliefs that have been so hard to let go of. And our shared stories, that when we understand that we can lose nothing, that we can embrace these moments even more deeply, and not only just have the story, but have it built into our DNA to remember and enjoy. And if the story, like I said, isn't pleasant, or is hard to comprehend as you're moving through it, then remember that as an infinite and immortal being, you have lasted longer than any story ever told about you. That you are the sum of many, and we are many who love thee. And how much love have you expressed over these lifetimes? How many days and nights have you greeted? How many hands have you held? How many precious moments? How many times have you looked in the eyes of someone and recognized that you just had this connection? That intimacy and love can be expressed in a million different ways. That as soon as you decide to have joy and pleasure, it's yours. Because your eyes are not locked on what this moment in time being stuck. So let's breathe in together, allowing the air to come in the nose, down into the lungs. And you're not separate from this air. And this air connects every single thing on this planet. It touches the top of the ocean. And who's to say that air doesn't bubble up from the bottoms of the ocean? And the ocean is a part of you. There's nothing separate from who you are. There's no space that you walk into that isn't okay for you to be there, as long as it feels right to you. There's no door that you cannot cross the threshold of. And yet, even after all this time, these lifetimes, we can still get excited. We can get excited because we don't have to fear that we don't exist after this. We don't have to fear that we won't go on. And we don't have to fear that we'll never see someone again. Now, we may not physically see them on this planet anymore. But see, your eyes aren't what sees. Your eyes receive data, but the being that you are is what sees, interprets those vibrations. And all energy has a vibration. And when it no longer exists in a physical form, it is still a beautiful vibration. And those words don't belittle the grief that we will feel when we lose something or feel that we've lost something that we've loved. But knowing that I have not lost it forever. That the space that we all exist in is connected. That I cannot escape the vibration of you, even if I wanted to. And it's, again, it has space for us to grieve. Because, of course, we want to hold somebody's hand forever that we love. We would choose to never say a physical goodbye. But the reason that we have the space for ourselves and others to be who they are right now is because we're in it together for eternity. There is no escaping each other. And in a world that we are building that loves one another, it can be a pleasure. So if you knew that you could not escape you, would you be more forgiving of yourself, more compassionate? If it was, the awareness was deeply there, that you're going to lie down and wake up, and lie down and wake up, and lie down and wake up, and then one day lie down and not wake up. Here. But you'll still be with you. Might you want to get to know you more? Might you want to know who it is that is beyond just this lifetime? Who is it that's holding the hand of the one you love? Is it a thought that holds their hand? Is what you think of yourself right now what's holding that loved one's hand? If you touch your own cheek, is it a thought that's touching your cheek? Or is it this infinite and immortal being embodied that has the ability with its own energy to touch its own cheek? To feel the skin on the cheek and the fingertips at the same time. To be aware of physical sensation. And that's what this energy gets to do on this planet. This embodied being gets to enjoy the sensation of touch, of sound, of hearing, of seeing, of vibration. And this being that you absolutely are is the one that's holding the hand of the one you love. And can you look at your own hand and love that hand? That this hand allows you to reach out and touch another vibration, and that hand you're touching is not a thought touching. See how little thought means? If anything else tells you how little thought means, it was never a thought that loved someone. It was never a belief that loved you. It was the being that you are that loves. And that being goes on forever and can always love the vibration that it was experiencing, whether that vibration was itself or another, or that vibration was loving the extended vibration that is all around it. So take the time to get to know what's really living through you. Because all we've known of ourselves for so long is just thoughts. But thoughts are not generating the emotion and feeling that's coming through you when you love another or yourself. That is from the being that you are. This spacious, vast space. This infinite and immortal consciousness that you are. And you're absolutely safe. You're absolutely safe. Everything's happening within you. Nothing is outside of you. And we're learning how to function in that awareness. Thank you for being here with me.